Yesterday afternoon, we received a call of a disturbance going on in the Town North apartment complex. A man and a woman were fighting in the parking lot. I think the call came in from somebody who works at the apartment complex. So the officer gets there. Initially, he speaks to the apartment employee there, who identifies George Cummings, a man standing across the parking lot there, as the man who had been fighting with the lady in the parking lot. He also says that Mr. Cummings had been previously banned from the property, and that he wasn't even supposed to be on the property. The officer approaches Mr. Cummings, and was able to talk to him, and eventually Cummings did say that he had been fighting with a woman out there, although he initially denied it. After they were able to confirm that he had in fact been banned from the property, they went to arrest him once the property or the manager there said that he wanted to file charges against him for criminal trespass. Once they did, Cummings immediately started pulling away from them. They then used a tactic to put him on the ground where they could gain control over him. Cummings was on the ground, and he had his arms under him like this, locked up. And the officers were trying repeatedly, telling him, put your hands behind your back. They were trying to get him to comply with their request or their demands to be placed under arrest at that point there. He continued to resist for several minutes. While this was going on, there was a crowd gathering in the area who were becoming somewhat aggressive towards the officers. So the officers were requesting additional units and officers to come to assist in also arresting, getting Mr. Cummings under arrest, getting him into handcuffs, as well as being able to help control the crowd to make sure that everybody was safe in the area. They were eventually able to. It required they used Capstun or the pepper spray, trying to get him to comply. It still didn't work. While they were there, they were using their elbow trying to stun him to where they were able to get his hands behind his back. That really didn't work either. I mean, they were trying a lot of things, pulling, and it just really was not working. Trying to get him under arrest, and it took, as I said, several minutes to get him into custody. Once they were able to get his hands behind his back and get him handcuffed, he was he was being walked to the car where he collapsed, or at least he went limp in the process of this, and they laid him down on the ground there, did a quick check to make sure that he was okay. At that point, they were able to get him in the car, where they then transported him up actually just a few blocks up the road to where an ambulance had been staged to check him out to make sure that he was in fact okay. Which is typically what we do anytime we do Capstun or pepper spray or something like that. If they exhibit any kind of apparent medical issues or something like that, we want to make sure that they're in good shape physically to be taken to the jail, or if they need to go to the hospital, we want to know that so we can help protect them that way. The ambulance crew checked him out. There were no medical issues that they were able to identify, so the determination was made to go ahead and transport him to the jail, where he was booked in for criminal trespass as well as the resisting arrest. Once there, he was decontaminated from the pepper spray, and the nurse in the jail also checked him out there. There have been no other issues that I'm aware of at all in terms of his health or anything like that. There was a video that was posted online on Facebook of the incident that, unlike many of these videos, they show half of the story. They show the part where the officers had already tried to take him in custody, and they were out on the ground, wrestling and struggling with him on the ground. It doesn't show anything before that happened. It doesn't show anything that happened afterwards. There are some people, I think, that watch the video that are upset with what they see, thinking that the officers may have used excessive force. But in this case here, the officers, I think, acted very reasonably. I have to, the officers behaved, I think, very professionally. They showed restraint in terms of dealing with the situation, both in terms of Mr. Cummings, as well as the crowd that was gathering around them. Before the recording started, of course, the manager had identified him as the person that was fighting, so they knew that he had already been involved in some type of assault out there, and also knew that he had been banned. So, they were kind of a bit on guard in terms of dealing with him because they didn't know what the circumstances were when they approached him. So, they were talking to him, trying to get it. He was very evasive in his answers, almost aggressive or combative in terms of the way he was answering the officers. All of this together kind of put them in a situation where they were afraid that once they went to try to arrest him, if it got to that point, that there may well be an issue. We do have body cam video from the officers that were on the scene, and it shows just exactly what the officers said in their report. In terms of him locking his hands underneath them, trying desperately. There were 3 officers on scene, and they could not pull his hands and his arms from underneath him. He had them locked. It shows them trying to do that, as well as the capstun deployment, and them using the elbow to try to stun his back to where they were able to get his hands behind his back.
Did the officers throw punches?
There were no punches thrown. They did use their elbow coming down like that on his back, trying to stun him to get compliance.